Hey, welcome to Tag Talks. I'm Paul Schiller, and today I'm catching up with my friend and colleague, Micky Edwards. He is our Director of Sales in EMEA. Micky looks after the Nordics, UK, and the EMEA region, working with broadcasters and media groups as they make the jump from SDI to IP. Uh, and they're also looking at cloud options and figuring out how to run leaner, smarter operations. He's got a front row seat to what's happening in the region, and we're going to dig into what he calls the great Nordic migration. Welcome, Micky.
Hi, Paul. Good to see you today. Yeah, I mean, if people are expecting me to talk about reindeers going across the Nordic landscape, then that's not what we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
Um,
So, what is the great Nordic migration, and why does it matter beyond the Nordics?
um, the Great Nordic Migration, as I see it, is the migration from SDI to IP, and I think we're seeing the Nordic Scandinavia region really sort of leading this change that's going on in the industry. They really are at the forefront of what's happening with moving to 2110 and really the adoption of IP workflows.
So, where do these Nordic broadcasters stand today in their migration path?
Some of them are really advanced, and some of them are just sort of starting out, depending on the size of the broadcaster and what lies ahead for them. Um, we're seeing that they're really keen to find out what's available in the industry, how they can get help, and really very keen to adopt new technologies.
Yeah, so what's really driving this migration from both a technical and a business standpoint?
I think there's a number of factors really. I think one of it is that every region, they're squeezed financially. They've got to find ways of doing more with less. They've got to look at how they can reduce costs, but still keep the quality of their services as people would expect it, so they don't end up with churn and people going to other channels and going off to Netflix or Paramount or whatever. So I think that they've really got to up their game and bring good content to the masses.
Well, so does cloud fit into this strategy they have, and where does cloud not fit, really?
Yeah, I mean, certainly we're seeing them move into the OTT space. I think there's people like Telenor that are in there and moving football around and sports. And I think that it's one way for them to get a new audience with a younger audience that are already on different devices for their television viewing. I mean, it's media content, and they need to be able to get it out to approach different genres.
Do you think that the what what sort of challenges are they seeing, and how are they addressing those challenges?
I think challenges that they face, other broadcasters face as well, with changing technologies and making sure that they've got people that are skilled up for this. Um, and I think the other thing is that they need to have multi-skilled people within their organisation so that they can do the IP workflows. You know, they understand traditional broadcasting, but still able to take them through. So they're ending up with more people that are multi-skilled, so that they can change from being a player operator in the morning to maybe doing OTT in the evening. So there's a big skills overlap here that I see within the broadcasters.
Is there any, is there a direct to consumer model that they're looking at, or is sports and live content part of that, part of those challenges?
Yeah, sports and live content, I think, that's a key driver that they pick up and distributing this across their networks. They certainly have challenges doing it traditionally using DVB over aerials because of the geographical challenges they have within the region. Satellite's really expensive. So, one way to do it is OTT. And we saw some very early adoption with people like Warner Brothers that moved their children's content across to OTT, and basically so that they could get out to more people within the regions.
So, is there anything else shaping the migration, like, for instance, any kind of regulatory factors or funding
Yeah,
models?
so it's interesting with the funding. There's a number of different funding models that go across Europe. BBC, for instance, in the unique way it's funded, they have a license that every household has to pay that watches TV. However, that's changed recently with the introduction of channels like Disney and Netflix and Paramount and others. So the licensing model there for the UK has now stated that if you receive live broadcast, and that doesn't matter who it comes from, it's any live broadcast. But there's still, I think there's somewhere around 500,000 people now that have changed and said no, we don't watch any live TV. And there's been a few challenges in the court, but the BBC haven't been able to prove that. So that there's concern there about this migration of people from away from a traditional sort of TV license in the UK, but in the Scandinavian countries that's can be different. And from what I understand is that there's a small amount of tax that people pay, which helps go towards the broadcaster. But there are some unique differences there with what the broadcasters provide in these in the Nordics.
What's unique about the Nordic and EMEA broadcast ecosystem that others might not realize?
I think that within the Nordics that there's national alert systems that are put through the broadcasting. It's conscribed through the governments that they have to be there to provide this service. And that's slightly different from how other broadcasters operate as well. So certainly for the national broadcasters, there's a big thing there for early warning systems and that sort of thing.
What about integration of, like, language and subtitle integration type stuff?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. All of the Scandinavian and Nordic broadcasters, there's a lot of cross-fertilization there. So they'll do their broadcasts in multiple languages. So there'll be Swedish, Nordic, Danish, Finnish, Icelandic, etc. that will go out Sumi, and they'll put out multiple subtitle languages that are then available, so that you get a bigger market for your content right across the regions.
Looking ahead, what should broadcasters in any region be thinking about to stay competitive in today's media world?
I think there are a number of challenges, really. One is to continue to make interesting and informative content and quality content as well. And I think quality is king. You see, broadcasters like the BBC putting out some really quality content. And I think that, to monitor that and make sure that you're delivering that content in a suitable quality right across the different workflows, whether it's going out as OTT, whether it's going out as a traditional broadcast. You still have to have the quality of content there. So being able to monitor that and see what's happening with that and look at how that quality compares across the different platforms as well. And something I said earlier on is doing more with less. I think people, even the national broadcasters, have to have a good return on investment. And if they're investing in technologies, they need to make sure that these are going to bring them the revenue in that they require to run as a business. And each one's being squeezed. I mean, within each government, you see that there's reductions in the amount of money that's made available for producing content. So, they have to be relevant, they have to be agile, and they have to keep at the forefront of what's happening with technologies to make sure that they can deliver across all the media platforms.
Mickey, we talked about efficiency and cost savings, but broadcasters are also using a wide range of systems, whether it's their controllers or logging systems, subtitling, network management, all that kind of good stuff. Like, how important is it that the IP monitoring platforms integrate seamlessly with the rest of the ecosystem?
It's very important, but it's not just important for the monitoring system. It's important for all the platforms that they're using. Interoperability really is the key in allowing the broadcasters to integrate right across their workflows. Open APIs really help, along with standards such as NMOS. These are really key to being able to get the broadcasters to get their systems connected and up and running as quickly as possible. The role of a systems integrator has also changed within this ecosystem. No longer are they racking and stacking and putting the SDI cables in. They're all about creating apps and having the pieces of glue that will help hold all of this together.
What's the importance of then, without specifically getting into what TAG can offer, what should they be thinking about when they're looking at monitoring solutions that can serve them well?
I I think the monitoring solutions need to be able to respond to what's happening across all the different platforms, whether it's uncompressed, compressed services, whether it's going through OTT, the ABR ladders, etc. They need to be able to check to see what's happening with the quality, not of the just of the video, but the audio as well, and make sure that they're delivering a quality service right across their different workflows. And that goes the same for production and remote production. You know, more and more people are looking to reduce costs, so remote production is becoming very prevalent for people, especially in outlying areas. So, you know, ski competitions and that sort of thing, rather than trying to move great big OB trucks around, that doing this as remote production and then everything coming back to a studio, but being able to monitor that as well from where they're picking it up from the ingest side to where they're delivering it across the network. So I think it's important that quality plays a key part in what they're trying to provide as a service.
You know, many broadcasters in the Nordics or wherever they are delivering the same content across multiple platforms, whether it's OTT, terrestrial, or other delivery. How do they ensure consistency across those outputs?
There's multiple challenges for them, especially with things like subtitling, for instance. You know, they're handling multiple languages and they're holding this across multiple platforms as well. So OTT, DVB terrestrial, and web services as well. So they've got to make sure that they deliver consistency across these. So having monitoring platforms that's able to tell them what the latency is so that they can see the difference between going out on a DVB terrestrial service as to a web service so that they can check on these things. And also making sure that they're delivering the same content. So having some form of content matching so that they can know with certainty that what they're putting out on their terrestrial service, they're also putting out on the web and also onto their OTT services. And of course, there's other things that they want to do as well, is perhaps serve Instagram or YouTube or TikTok. So being able to have this content available and put it into those formats as well is really important in today's media climate.
Does any environmental or sustainability issues crop up in any kind of discussions around this migration?
Yes, I mean it does crop up. I mean, when you look at the the hardware installations, there's racks of equipment that require cooling, they require power. If you go to a software based, then you can look at reducing that. You can host it in data centers. Yes, they still take power, but actually it's shared across multiple people and clients and regions, so that they can look at reducing their footprint, their carbon footprint within the industry. So a lot of people are looking at sustainability and how the migration across to IP will help them fit in with what's happening with the rest of the world.
What would you say to those that are sticking with SDI and not moving to IP workflows in their operations?
I think that, they're moving up to IP gives them greater flexibility within the organization. I think that there's potentially some downside that if they don't move with the times, they'll get left behind. And then, things if they're trying to interface with and do integrations with other broadcasters, then they'll want them in a different format than they've captured them. So, they'll find themselves sort of left behind to some extent. Cost is a huge factor, though. Some of the smaller broadcasters, when you go to a completely IP infrastructure, it's a huge cost. I mean, they've got to get rid of everything that they have at the moment, and then move across to new formats with new training and everything else. But I think a sign of the time is that as more and more broadcasters are moving across to the digital infrastructure, that people will have to adapt and move with it. Otherwise, they'll get left behind.
Hey, Micky, always great to talk with you. Thanks for sharing what's really going on in the Nordics and across EMEA. I think a lot of folks will take away what they can apply in their own markets. We'll keep an eye on how that great Nordic migration plays out, and maybe have you back for an update, down the road.
Thank you, Paul. It's been great to talk to you this afternoon. It's a passion of mine for the region. There's some fantastic people there, and hopefully a few people will be able to listen to this and help them in their regions as well. Thanks very much for talking today.
Thanks, Micky. Always a pleasure.